All right, it's 5:32, so I think we can get started now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Philip Wu with the Department of City Planning, and we're co-hosting a development activities meeting tonight with the Oakland Planning and Development Corporation and the Oakland Business Improvement District, which are the two registered community organizations for the Central Oakland area. We have 3 projects on tonight's agenda, all of which are associated with the University of Pittsburgh, including a new health and wellness center, exterior renovation to the William Pitt Union, and exterior modifications to Langley Hall. And before we get into the presentation, just want to go over a few logistics related to participating in tonight's Zoom meeting. First, if anyone has any technical issues or needs any assistance, please use the chat feature, and I'll be sure to help you out. For any questions from attendees to our presenters, you can use either the Q&A function on Zoom to type out your question or comments, or you can tap the raise hand button if you would like to ask your question out loud. If anyone is calling in by phone, press *9, and that will allow you to raise your hand, and we'll unmute you when we're ready to have you speak. As for our presenters, we ask that you be mindful of anyone who may not be in front of a computer or is on audio only or on the phones, and to try your best to describe what's on each slide. And just a note that we are recording this meeting for OPDC and OBID to post online if so desired, or to share with anyone who wasn't able to participate this evening. So just a little bit about what a development activities meeting is. The development activities meeting, or DAM for short, is a meeting that is held as part of the city's registered community organization program. It's a program that's where OPDC and OBID are both members. And the program seeks to incorporate community input into planning and development activities in neighborhoods with strong community groups that have applied to be part of the program. So whenever a project applicant requests to go before the zoning board, the planning commission, the historic review commission, or the art commission, or some combination of the above for a public hearing, and whose projects meet certain thresholds, that applicant must coordinate with the RCO and city planning to coordinate or to hold a development activities meeting to engage the community. So a DAM is really a way for community stakeholders to learn about projects in their neighborhood and to share any concerns that they may have prior to the project going for a public hearing. And so in Central Oakland, there are 2 RCOs, again, OPDC and OBID. And when there are overlapping boundaries for RCOs, the guidelines specify that city planning coordinates the DAM in cooperation with both RCOs. So my colleague, Stephanie Joy Everett, is actually on this call tonight as well. And she's the neighborhood planner for Oakland for now. And what she'll be doing in the background is listening into the presentation, taking note of any questions or comments from panelists and attendees, as well as the answers to the questions provided by the project team. She'll also be completing a report that will go to the relevant boards and commissions that will document the proceedings from this meeting. The report is neutral and doesn't make any conclusions. So if folks have strong feelings about the projects, should consider submitting testimony or attending the relevant board or commission meeting. So for the projects to be presented tonight, the William Pitt Union and Langley Hall exterior modifications are going to the Historic Review Commission because they're located in the Oakland Civic Center Historic District. And the Campus Recreation Wellness Center is a component of Pitt's institutional master plan. So that project will go before the Planning Commission. So I think that's all I really have to go over right now. So I'll give both RCOs a chance to speak about their respective organizations and any prior engagement they've had with the Pitt project team. So we have OPDC going first, and Kathy Raddick is here.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, I'm Kathy Raddick. I'm the Communications and Operations Manager at Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. We work to build a better Oakland and help neighbors thrive. We have many programs where we're interacting with community members. We offer affordable rental housing. We also run the Oakland Community Land Trust, which provides affordable home ownership and keeps homes in Oakland owner occupied throughout the years. We do organizing throughout the community, advocacy and planning, meetings like this with our neighbors. We also have a number of people on staff who work with workforce development, financial coaching, job and career coaching. And we also participate in design review of projects that are on the docket in Oakland. And we also have a school to career program where we assist Oakland youth and also Hill District youth with mentoring and assistance with school. As for tonight's meeting, this is OPDC's first engagement with University of Pittsburgh on all 3 of the projects. We also have project pages on our website under our design development review page for each of the specific projects that we're hearing from tonight.
Thanks, Kathy. And one last slide here.
Sure. Just a couple of our regular monthly meetings that we have coming up. The end of this month, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. These meetings are all virtual and we do it on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. We have our Oakland-wide meeting on the 29th. We'll be going over some aspects of the Oakland plan, and the comment period for the draft plan is open until May 1st. So we'll be kind of drilling into it, sharing some of our analysis of the plan. And then also we'll come back to the Oakland-wide meeting that will take place on April 26th at 6 o'clock. And then our monthly Let's Talk meeting takes place. The next one is in April on the 20th, also starts at 6. We'll have representatives from Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority who will share news on upcoming projects and line replacements set for Oakland throughout the 2022 construction period.
Great, thank you, Kathy. And now we have Leah Friedman from OPID.
My name is Leah Friedman. I am the new Marketing and Communications Manager at the Oakland Business Improvement District. Thank you, Phil and SJ, for having me. So this is my first development activities meeting. A little bit about us. So OPID represents a diverse group of decision makers, including property and business owners, universities, hospitals, city government, community, and cultural nonprofits in Oakland. The membership of our group is comprised of roughly 200 property owners, businesses, and organizations that are located within the BID, our geographic boundary area. Our vision is to set the standard for growth and innovation, and our mission is to ensure Oakland's place as Pennsylvania's global center. And just a little bit about our values, to reframe the experience of commercial, retail, office, and residential environments while dismantling oppression, embracing diversity, promoting diverse businesses, and creating spaces for social, racial, and economic justice. We also do have a number of programs within the Central Business District in Oakland, including a clean team and a number of events throughout the year that kind of promote Oakland and our business district there. We also have, I just have our website listed here that always has updates around development activities, meetings, and other things happening in Oakland. You can also follow us at Oakland_412 on Twitter and Instagram. And I just put my email here as well in case anybody wants to reach out with any questions or concerns. And then just a brief note on engagement for today's meeting. Somewhat relevant, OPID did formally support the University of Pittsburgh's institutional master plan, which some of these projects, I believe, fall into that. OPID, we did send notification of these projects in today's meeting to our members and stakeholders and are continuing to collect any feedback as it comes. And our director has been in private communication with Pitt about these projects briefly. Our board does give preliminary support at this time. And we would also just wanted to remind anybody on the call to attend the development activities meeting for the Oakland plan rezoning, which is hosted by the Department of City Planning this week on Wednesday via Zoom, which can be found on the city's website.
Thank you, Leah. I think we can get started on presentations. I believe we have Beth McGrew going first.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And would you like to share your screen?
Yes. Okay, can everybody, whoops. I need to flip these. There. Is that better? Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
You can hear me all right?
Yep, all good to go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for attending the meeting on this nice, sunny, pleasant evening. I appreciate that. I'm trying not to go on too long. This is our presentation of the Campus Recreation and Wellness Center. It's one of the first projects out of the plan, and it's a long-awaited center for the students, a critical part of the master plan in response to the surveys that were done, where the students had a very, very strong desire for some recreation on campus, more than we have, which is not very much, and also the forward thinking of our Dean of Students to add wellness to that to make the Campus Rec and Wellness Center. So I know I want to talk about the building, but I want to give a little bit of a framework of this building. When we started it, it was really important to look at the city. You know, we have all these wonderful but unruly terrain of hills and hollows and valleys and 3 intersecting rivers. I never tire of seeing the incline. I don't know about you, and I love looking at Canton Avenue, and where I don't know if they still have them, but they used to have the bike races up this steepest street in the United States. So our context then is to look a little bit of the history of the hills. I want to talk a little bit about landscape, framework plan, and reforestation, because when you're building on hillsides, that's really important, and stormwater. So the existing conditions of our hillside today, you might know that I don't know if this is actually one of the paper streets, but there are many sidewalks like this up and down the hillside, and many of them are legally the paper streets. You can see that there's a little bit of erosion. Some of this is just dryness, a little bit of erosion on the hillsides. The hillsides are really steep, so the goats come in and eat away at our knotweed, which we're grateful for, but then that does leave a little bit of erosion in its path, although they are much fun to watch. So just a little bit of the existing conditions. And also it's nice to compare what we see on Forbes Avenue, which is vibrant and busy, and a little bit more flat, and then go up to the hill, some at least 125 feet higher to the complementary hillside. And we're really fortunate in Oakland to have both kinds of areas, that is flat and that with some steep topography. So we took a lot of our cues from what happens along the bluffs that surround the hills. This is the campus in here. And we looked at what is the nature of that vegetation, what kind of habitat is it? You know, it's important for the critters of the world that we need to be able to have a continuous corridor. And we also wanted to look at the link to the greenways that are being established in the city, and also to look at our enabling projects, which included the demolition of a couple of buildings and the reorientation of some roadways. The concept of the green ribbon originated in our master plan by ASG. And it was the idea that while all the green spaces don't touch, to make something that is continuous from the wonderful Shenley Park here that heads up to our hill. And this green ribbon was a theme that drove many aspects of our plan, a deliberate curation of ecology, experience, aesthetics, to make our sense of place and to look at how the hillside stitches the buildings together in a way to make a complete expression. So in order to do that, we worked with a lot of people on this project, and Land Collective, our landscape architect, came up with a notion of character zones. And these have been organizing tools, and they will be for all of our projects up on the hillside. And the first one I'm going to call the URBANE, and it is one that is maybe more architectural in nature, not too much variation in color and texture. And it's typically found at the base of our projects or in the flat area along O'Hara. I'll show you the location of the project a little bit later. The second one is the Rusticated. And in the Rusticated, we like to think of it as going partway up the hill. It will be a little less former than the URBANE, and as an example, the stone block bench in the urban character zone reappears with a saw-cut top and a split face sides in the Rusticated zone. The last one is the Sylvan zone. That would be when the area at the top gets heavily forested in our replanting, and that progresses. So our Rusticated zone progresses intentionally to our site harvested boulders, and you can see where we are going from more formal to less formal as we head up into the more natural areas, which is the greatest part of all the topography. This just gives you some views of the hillside. On the left-hand side, you can see this is actually the entrance location of the Rec and Wellness Center. You'll be going up the hill in what, not sure who originated the name, but we call it Panther Run. And it's a combination of soft and hardscape, and places to address both plantings, places of repose where you can stop and enjoy some activities, and also places to naturally collect the stormwater. Same with this one at the top. This is the fifth entrance to the rec center. And when I show you the building, it'll be, you'll see the logic in that. But along this path here, can you see my arrow? Well, I'm hoping you can see my cursor. That allows you to see where these areas collect the stormwater naturally. We've got accessible pathways. This one would be coming from Hillside Housing into the rec center, and then other pathways to get on up the hill. And along these pathways are nodes where you can have some different activities. So as you all know, a consent, I'm sorry, I guess the spell check made it degree, but it's decree, C-R-E-E. And this consent decree is in many of our old cities along the rivers, and they're agreements or settlements that resolve a dispute between two parties without admission of guilt or liability. And that is what we are under, the city is under, to make some agreements to have an updated stormwater for code approval and to really address the stormwater, which can be especially tough when we have our big heavy rains, which we have more of more frequently in the city. So what the university did was work with some engineers to get our stormwater master plan to look at where are we draining and how much are we draining. And that is why in these, here's another close-up view of Panther Run. And our thought was then to map out our strategies and assess the volume that we could contain in the softscape, in the rocky areas where we collect water, and then also to put in an engineered strategy, which would be a tank. So these are just some examples of those green areas. And this kind of curious drawing is really what the reason I wanted to show it to you is to note the red lines depict the pathways. And so we have a lot of pathways, but between and among each of the major building projects that'll come out over the years, we want to make sure that we have an accessible path. Not easy to do on a steep hillside, but we've managed to do that. And I think that'll be a large part of how nice it is to be connected. So this is O'Hara Street that you're looking at now. And this is the massing study for the rec center. it does not actually cut out of the hill. It actually uses the same footprint that the O'Hara garage and the educational building that were demolished. And then it presses up against that hillside. And that strategy was to be less invasive to this hillside and make sure that we weren't destabilizing anything. So here's a view of the Campus Rec and Wellness Center. The design architect is Moody Nolan, architect of record is IKM. This is the O'Hara Street entry. This is where you'd enter the building, or you can also go up Panther Run and simply use it to get to the top of the hill, or you can go into the building and take the elevators to get to the top of the hill. You know, we all visually imagined an escalator, but if you talk to our folks in sustainability, you know that escalators are difficult to maintain. They're often not working. They use an awful lot of energy, which is the primary reason we use the elevators. But these elevators are separate from the entrance into the Rec and Wellness Center proper, so you can always use it as a means of getting up and down the hillside if you don't feel like walking the hills or taking the shuttle. So on this slide, on the left-hand side, I'm depicting the entrance onto the 5th level. And the reason we have a primary entrance on level 5 is because we have so many students up on the hill, and we'll have more. So there are well over 1,000 students that will be up there, and having them enter the rec center from this level makes it a part of their neighborhood. The slide on the right shows you're still on the 5th level. So you can see these pathways coming. There are places to put your bicycles. There's a lot of glass in the building, but on this side of the building, it's more metal panels out of respect for WPIG. And I do want to let you know that the architect is working very hard to look at the bird impact mitigation strategies and has a lot of frit patterns on the glazing based on the path of travel of the birds. Here's a view from the bird's view from the air. And what you're looking at is a green roof, one of the softer strategies for controlling or slowing down the stormwater. These shapes are perhaps solar panels, and then these clerestories add natural light into the highest gym. You can look down Panther Run down to O'Hara. There are a couple of little balconies and porches on this, and this overhang, I think, gives it a nice touch of being contemporary. And this pathway is the pathway that is the accessible pathway from the housing. The housing is not yet built, but is part of the plan. So the section here shows you all of the different levels. There's a sky track up on the top. You can see some wellness areas where there'll be classes, multi-purpose rooms. There are some fitness areas. This vertical colored wall is indicating the climbing wall and the bouldering areas. There's even esports, if you like to engage in fitness in a different way, and then down into the lobby. The second section is just looking at it from the other side, where you can see these clerestories and how that let light into the gym. They were careful to look at the strategies so that there wouldn't be shadows. You can see racquetball courts, multi-purpose rooms, and a nice food service and dining area that you don't have to be going to the rec center to work out to be able to use the dining area. Here's an example. These are some early renderings, but pretty close to true of what it looks like when you come into the building, into the lobby, and what the dining area will look like. There's a focus on healthy food. They have a lot of adjectives to describe that, working on growing some of the herbs themselves to put in the salads and the food. So it ought to be a pleasant experience. This is an early rendering of the lobby, but pretty true to shape, maybe not all the graphics that we would use, but this is what you would see when you enter in off of the 5th floor lobby. Here's an example of circulation around and through the rec center. A little bit of the pool entry rec corridor. Here's, I believe we ended up with 6 or 7 lanes of swimming. Here's an example of the highest, the Sky Gym that it's called, and here's that track that as you run around, it should be an awful lot of fun to look down over the campus proper. So let me go back and take a look. Are there any questions? I don't see any hands raised. Am I missing any, Phil?
I don't see anything in the chat. Let's see, Kathy Gallagher has her hand raised. Kathy, I've allowed you to speak.
My question is any part of this building going to be open to the community?
Well, I think that's really up to the student affairs folks. I know we do have a Leisure Learn program that will continue in Trees Hall. And there's no plan on taking down Trees Hall. So I think we'll get the students acclimated to it first, and then I think that's a good question for the future. This was something paid for by the student fees for the most part. But as you know, we often open our venues to the community for their use. That's a rather ambiguous answer, Kathy, but that's all I know for right now.
Well, thank you.
Yes. What is the expected time of construction? Well, we've already started on the enabling projects with the roadway and the utilities. And I believe Anastasia notes here that the community will also have an opportunity to have to enjoy some of the food service venues, which is good. And we'll be starting construction, we hope, if all the approvals and go through later this spring or June, early summer. All right, shall I move along, Phil?
Yeah, I just want to read the comments from Anastasia. Yeah, the committee will have an opportunity to have one of the food service venues. Construction starts June this year, opens fall 2024. And that looks like
Excuse me, I didn't explain what Anastasia meant. What she meant was that the neighborhood, we had a lot of requests for the neighborhood to actually have one of the food venues to sell things. And that's what Anastasia was reminding us of. Not only can you go in and have lunch, but you could also open it up to one of the neighborhood places that would like to serve food there.
All right, yeah, I think you can probably move on to the next project.
All right, the next project is about the William Union patio. The William Pitt Union was built in 1898, and here it is right here. It was designed by the architects Rutan and Russell in the Beaux-Arts style. The Beaux-Arts style simply refers to the fact that it's classical in nature and has elements of Greco-Roman styling. So this building was once known as the Waldorf of Pittsburgh. And here are some historic sites. I love looking at these. It hasn't really changed that much, a bit so on the Forbes Avenue side. And certainly Bigelow Boulevard, the recent renovation is a nice complement. So you can see here, this is the side of the building that's on Forbes Avenue. And we were so fortunate that Chuck found this old aerial for us, where you can see that there was a roadway that went around on the Forbes Avenue side. And look at all these cars. I do think we do, in spite of the traffic in Oakland, I think that we're a lot better with not having so many parked cars everywhere. But what happened in the 80s is that this roadway was depressed a lot. And this is what it looks like today. And so you can see this from Forbes Avenue, and the roadway was much higher. So a lot of this building was underground. And in the 1980s, there was a project done where all of these were put up. You can see these are drawings from the 80s where these forms were made and additional columns were made. And over the years, it's been many years, all of a sudden there are, let me go back a slide, there are leaks along the edge where the porch was extended, and it's leaking down into the building below where all the food venues are, and just making a mess of things. In addition to that, the porch is not, doesn't meet any of the safety guidelines right now because there are no railings. There are planters that aren't very high. In addition to that, there's a step to get onto it. So the goal of the project is first and foremost to get rid of the leaks and redo things, to level and raise the porch just enough so that you can get out of the door and enjoy the porch, and to put a railing around it so that it can be enjoyed. This is a line drawing from the architects, PWWG, who's working on the project. This is that porch. So you can see they're adding a railing around it so that it's safer to be on. And then down below, we're taking off all of those parts and pieces that were added because they don't really speak to the way the building would have looked historically. And since we have so many problems with the edge condition, we're going to take all of that down and get the building back a little more to what it was originally. And so this is a computer drawing, but you can get a sense of the scale of things and what it will look like in the end, and what the new entrance will look like down here using the Tuscan form. And this is a window that's there today, and this is the Citizens Federal ATM that's there today. So here's a bit of a view in perspective. These steps are here today. You can also get to it from the front of the building on an accessible path. And I know this is a little clumsy, but we wanted to put a photo in so you can kind of see the relationship of this to the cathedral. We do think that it takes it back to what was originally intended for the building, and that it will be an attractive entrance when it's redone. And this will go before, as Phil mentioned, before the Historic Commission. So questions or comments on this particular project? I don't see any.
I don't see any questions either.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And with
Oh,
that,
looks like there's one hand raised from Mavis Rainey of Oakland Transportation Management Association.
hello, Mavis.
Hi, Mary Beth. How are you?
Thank you. What's your question?
I have a question for you. My apologies if I missed it. Where is the ADA access? Is it from Fifth, or is there ADA from Forbes into the building?
There is not ADA from Forbes. I don't think there is, but there is a path over here that'll get you around to the upper area. And on the side of the building and in the front of the building, well, this is also the front, but on the Fifth Avenue side and on the Bigelow side, those are the accessible paths to get into the building. And then, of course, there are elevators to get down.
Great, thank you.
All right.
We also have a question from Ronald Lebo.
Hey, Beth, can you hear me?
Yes.
So that path is accessible. There's a ramp, and I apologize that I couldn't speak up earlier. There is an ADA ramp that scooches around from the west.
Oh, from here, you can get down in there?
No, from the west. Yes, there's an ADA path that scooches down into there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, there, Mavis, I was wrong. There are 3 accessible paths.
Gotcha. Thanks, Ron.
Yep.
All right, shall I stop sharing? And Chuck is going to present the next project.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chuck Elkhorn, planner at Pitt. I'm going to be presenting the Langley Hall exterior modifications. And can everybody see this presentation?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So trying to change the slides. Okay, so Langley Hall is located in the Oakland Civic Center City Historic District. The building is highlighted in yellow in this map, and you can see the outline of a historic district in red. And of course, we just saw the William Pitt Union, which is number 14 on the map. And today we're talking about, right now we're talking about number 8, which is a part of a complex of classrooms and office spaces for Pitt. And you can see Langley Hall highlighted here in between Crawford Hall and Clapp Hall. And here is the exterior street level view that was taken about a month ago, showing the existing conditions. So the building was constructed in 1960 and received renovations in 1982. The circles in this image indicate the locations where the exterior modifications are planned. And the work is proposed because the interior renovations will consolidate 2 auditorium classrooms to make 1 larger auditorium space. And you can see how the interior will change in these pictures. Here are the images that show the existing buildings. And the next slide will show the modifications that are planned. So you can see where on the right image, the window will be located. And the left image is showing where a existing door is going to be replaced. So just going into some of the details, you can see again the classroom space, and the reason we are proposing a window in this location is to let in natural light into the classroom and into the hallway into the building. And this image shows the before and after, right-hand side, the after showing where the window is located and what it will look like. This is a close-up view where the architects will be matching the window with the current stone pieces, and we'll try to match the design of the other windows in the building. And for the doorway that's near the entrance to the building, you can see the before and after, where the doorway is actually going to be enclosed. A little concrete pathway will be landscaped with probably grasses, and a exterior light above the doorway will be removed. And the proposal actually will match the aggregate on the lower portion, and will actually use the reused stone that the window will be replacing. So all the materials will be matching. That's actually it for this presentation. It's a pretty straightforward project, and the next step is to actually present this to the Historic Review Commission. Are there any questions about this project?
I see a question in the Q&A from Alexandra. I was just wondering the motivation for these changes.
Sure, yeah. The motivation is because the interior is being renovated from 2 auditoriums to 1, and currently there's no natural light in this space, and the window will be providing the natural light, and I was actually a student at Pitt years ago and took a class in one of these auditoriums. And as a student, any type of natural light would have been appreciated in this space. So the light will be used for the classroom space and in the hallway, and the exterior doorway near the entrance is no longer needed. So that's a reason why that will be filled in.
We do have a question about that door. What is the current use of the door, and how would its elimination affect emergency egress?
Right. So I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on the screen. In this image that shows a demolition plan, there's actually a small stairway in this area in the back of an auditorium. And that is being removed. And because of that, there won't be needing any access to that area. And in the proposed plan, you can see that there is easy access outside of a room in this section of the proposed plan. It's actually the existing portion, but it's going to be more utilized if there is ever a need for emergency exit.
And we just have a comment from Kathy that nice to see that unattractive doorway removed.
Great, thanks.
We have a hand raised from Rob Squires.
Yes. Just looking at the design, how will people in the back of the classroom exit in an emergency? Are they going through that one exit up front?
So there's two means of egress. One is to take, again, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, to take the hallway to the exit from the main entrance to the building. And there's also another means of exit through this area, this stairwell that will take you to Tennyson Avenue.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Chuck about Langley Hall? If not, I'd like to thank both Chuck and Beth for their presentations tonight. And thank you also to both RCOs and to everyone in attendance. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.